amazing to me. They have all of these exhibits that are related to the murder of JFK. So we have numbered exhibits, and you can look at some of the things that were worn, like the shirt that Lee Harvey Oswald was wearing when he was arrested. You can see this, and you can see all these different angles of what he was wearing. You can go and see the windshield wiper, or the windshield that was removed from President Kennedy's car when he was shot. I mean, how amazing that somebody would even think that 60 years later, a group of kids in Indiana would be able to see the windshield of an assassinated president. That's what's so amazing about digitized artifacts, is that you can really get up close to something that you, in any other generation, we wouldn't have known anything about. If you go back, some other things that you can see here would be, you can look at the photos of the assassination. There are more here. And you can also even get names of people that were key players in the JFK assassination. It's kind of amazing when you think about what happens when somebody wants to attack the president, and how the FBI gets involved in all the different ways that they're going to study it. But if you choose to study this in your, or any president who was assassinated, the National Archives would be a terrific place to go. And you don't even have to think about the president. You can think about anybody who's in the federal government who's ever been hurt. The next thing that I want to show you, before we move on from the FBI, is Jonestown. So if you go up on the right, looking for a J here, and we're looking for Jonestown. So go ahead and click on that. Now the reason we're going to look at Jim Jones, we're not going to spend a lot of time here, but Jim Jones is mentioned here in the FBI files. There's not a lot here, except for the link that I'm going to point out, but what his background is that he was a cult leader in the 1970s, and he has some connections to Indiana. And his Indiana connections are that he lived there for a while, and then he moved on, and he ended up convincing nearly 1,000 people to move to Guyana in South America. And after a congressman was shot, when he went to investigate what was happening to the people who were there, Jim Jones convinced that group of people to drink some Kool-Aid or Flavor Aid, and they all perished in Guyana. So this happened in 1978, and there doesn't seem to be a lot here outside of a picture. But if you look at this Freedom of Information Act, this will give you some more information about Jonestown. And once again, as being an investigator or a researcher, which is what you are doing, this is going to give you some artifacts that will help you do your presentation. Now, what's neat about the Freedom of Information Act is there are some things that our mean, the documents that they have there, they are absolutely the bedrock of our nation. And it is interesting to me when I think about all this, like especially lately with all the digitized, well, with social media. I mean, they have things about that President Obama did. They have things that President Trump has. And they have every single